Her Excellency, Dr. Susanna Wassum-Reiner, Ambassador of Germany to Israel. His Excellency, Mr. Martin Weiss, the Ambassador of Austria to Israel. Member of the Austrian Parliament, Mr. Martin Engelberg. Mr. Natan Sharansky, former chairman of the Jewish Agency and close friend of Yad Vashem. Mr. Avner Shalev, chairman of the Yad Vashem Directorate. Ms. Dorit Novak, Director General of Yad Vashem. Mr. Shaya Ben Yehuda, Managing Director of the International Relations Division. Ms. Jane Wilf, Representative of the American Society for Yad Vashem. Mr. Kai Diekmann, Chairman of the German Friends of Yad Vashem. Heads of Yad Vashem societies around the world. Mr. Roy Secker from Skorka Architects. Ms. Maya Shalev from Poran Shrem Project Managers. Yad Vashem friends and donors, Holocaust survivors, and distinguished guests. We are gathered here in the Yad Vashem Synagogue, a memorial to the numerous synagogues that were destroyed in the Holocaust. Behind me stands a Torah Ark brought here from Bar-Lad, Romania, and around us you can see Torah Arks and Judaica from synagogues all over Europe, whose members were rounded up, deported, and murdered. Some of the artifacts that you see here were taken by the deportees in their wandering from place to place during the Shoah. What we see here is a small remnant of that which was miraculously saved. Each remnant tells the story of a community. Each artifact has its own narrative. The context is one of death and destruction, but the narrative is ultimately about survival and the rebuilding of Jewish life. I would like to share one such story with you. Naftali Stern was a chazan in Satu Romania before the war. When the Nazis arrived in his town, he, his family, and 4 children were deported to Auschwitz, where his family was murdered. Naftali was sent to a forced labor camp called Wolfsburg. When he realized that the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, was approaching, he wanted to make sure that he would have the opportunity to pray. In exchange for valuable bread rations, he managed to obtain a torn wrapping from a sack of cement, and using the stub of a pencil, he wrote the prayers from memory. The Germans allowed the inmates of the camp to gather together and hold prayers for the new year, led by Naftali. Naftali hid the pages on his body until his liberation in 1945. He moved to Israel, married, and established a new family. For over 40 years, he continued to pray with his handwritten machzor next to him, until he realized that it had begun to disintegrate. It was then that he decided to donate the pieces of sack to Yad Vashem for eternal safekeeping. The pages and their story are presented in a book that has been published by Yad Vashem. We will be presenting you with a limited edition reproduction of the Machzor later on as a token of appreciation for your generous participation in the funding of the Shoah Heritage Campus. Yad Vashem's Holocaust collections are the largest in the world. These collections shed light on one of the darkest periods in human history. The Nazis made a concentrated effort not only to annihilate the entire Jewish people, but also to obliterate their identity, memory, culture, and heritage. For many of the victims of the Shoah, the only thing left behind are the artworks, artifacts, photos, and documents that have been entrusted to Yad Vashem to keep the stories of their creators and owners alive. Yad Vashem's preservation of these items ensures that the voice of the Shoah's victims and survivors will be everlasting. As the years pass and the generation of survivors dwindles, the significance of our collections grow. More than ever, they are vital tools in recounting and transmitting the true and complete story of the Holocaust. Yad Vashem's new Shoah Heritage Campus will serve as a home to these precious treasures and will reflect our responsibility to safeguard these collections for generations to come. The Shoah Heritage Campus constitutes the completion of Chairman Avner Shalev's visionary multi-year plan for an enhanced and expanded Yad Vashem here on the Mount of Remembrance. Avner Shalev was born in Jerusalem. During the Yom Kippur War, he served as bureau head of the Israel Defense Forces Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General David Elazar, and subsequently as Chief Education Officer of the IDF. Avner later served as Director of Israel's Culture Authority. Since 1993, he has been chairman of the Yad Vashem Directorate, leading a comprehensive program to meaningfully teach and commemorate the Holocaust in the 21st 21st century. It is my honor to call upon Avner Shalev to open today's ceremony.
Dear friends, and I'm sure partners and supporters and colleagues, and of course dear Holocaust survivors, and I have the feeling that we are together a part of a great family that are serving the same goals. Yad Vashem collects systematically fragments of, if you want, memories of the Shoah here in Israel from survivors from other families who are ready to share and to give it to us. A few years ago, a lady came and gave a diary. And the diary was written by her husband. Her husband was Rabbi Tauber, Uri, who was active in Mogilev, in Podolsk at that time, a great person, an educator, and under the circumstances, he established an orphanage at that place and saved and educated many, many young people. The situation was awful. So she gave the diary. It is a very important diary, and of course, we should use it. Then she was asked, maybe you have something else? And she says, no, nothing else. But then says, you know what, I have something, but seemingly it's not so important. So what is that you have, and it is not so important? And a book note, a note. And can we see it? Yes. Came to her home, and we found a notebook. Actually, it was a dedication book that was prepared by the students, the pupils of Rabbi. And there we saw several dedications. And I and my colleagues met one of the dedications that I cannot jump through. It is written, Bezrat Hashem, Larav Toiber, memory is the only paradise from which one cannot be expelled. And I thought, and we understood, that we are dealing to a certain extent, or the basis of what we are doing is based on memories of human beings. From a point of the way I see the Holocaust, it's stories of human beings. If we could tell the world and ourselves 6 million stories of individuals who went through the Shoah, I think we could change something deeply in human understanding. And when, to be personal, we started to modernize in the mid-90s, Yad Vashem, and we have the new dream, which was mentioned, and we understand that we have to establish very important elements, mainly the school, a new building for our archives, and of course other parts of the campus. We understood that we have to establish a new home for those memories as a part of the vision that we had about Yad Vashem and the way that we are functioning in that Yad Vashem. Because this new home from the memories will store all the building blocks that we need for teaching, dealing, disseminating, and remembering the Holocaust, and bringing it close to human beings. And it was part of the plan. But to be frank with you, after we establish first few elements, of course we came to the school. The school was established, but the building of the school was not. And in the end of the 90s, we established the building. And we had at the time 20 classrooms. And we saw that actually we need many more. Right now we have around close to 40 classrooms or groups who are coming to study in Yad Vashem every single day. So we had at that time only 20 classrooms, and we understood that we need other facilities and specifically more classrooms. So the question for me was to go forward with establishing this new home for the artifacts, for the creativity, for the memories, or to continue with the education. We decided to continue with the education, to expand the school, to have more classrooms. And when we concluded that step, we said, okay, now we can come to this new landmark. And we started to plan, we started to think, and I remember still well that one of those talks that I'm sharing with my many friends, I was sitting with David and Fela Chappelle and two good friends from the US, and I told them about the idea, about the need, and David said, okay, I'm going to be your partner, our first partner. And we started to move. It took quite a time, but we moved forward, and right now we are on the way. So other partners join us, of course our friends, Yad Vashem societies all over the US, in other sides of the world. I'm not going to mention every one of them. And it happened to me just, I think, 2 years ago, when a new chairperson came to lead our friends in Germany, Kai Dickmann, he's here with us. Where is Kai? And he heard the story, and he said, it's very important. I want to partner. And today, he will speak. He's another important partner to this endeavor. And we are moving forward with other supporters and friends. And what we are going to do in this part of our mountain campus is to build the sub-campus that will deal with the memories, with the heritage of memories of the Jewish people and of the Shoah. And we're going to store there, first of all, I think one of the most astonishing, important collections that any society, any organization has in the world. It's the result or the fruits of human efforts to create under the awful circumstances of the Shoah at that period. Human beings were fighting to keep their human identity, humanity, and creativity, and to create and to express, a person express himself, itself. It's one of the phenomena that are so important to every human being. And under the awful circumstances, there were thousands of pieces of creativity, and we collected them very carefully. And we have here around 12,000 pieces of art, creativity, which express this human need. And I think it's unique. So this collection will be the first, if you want, member in the new house. And then, of course, the artifacts. But not just artifacts as artifacts, but each artifact has a story, a human story. And the artifacts is, I think, a way to tell and to share this experience, human experience, that went through the events of the Shoah with the world, with youngsters for years. And of course, authentic documents and notebooks and diaries, as I mentioned before. So we are going to build a modern, state-of-art house that will be the home, a new home. Each one of these memories had the original home, but under the events of the Shoah, most of it was destroyed. And we have the fragments, and the fragments will be stored here, will be part of a new life that we shall give them. We shall teach about them, we shall give the ability to everyone in the world to learn about them. They will take their stories. So it's a very important stage in the development of the ability of Yad Vashem to deliver and to continue to tell the story and to teach and to keep a meaningful human remembrance. You are partners. you are working with us about this endeavor. We started to work. We have very good professionals. Part of them are here with us this afternoon. And within a very short time, I think that we should be there with the new home.
Natan Sharansky was born in Ukraine. In 1977, he was sentenced to 13 years in prison by the Soviet government. After 9 years imprisonment, Mr. Sharansky was released and emigrated to Israel. From 1996 until 2005, Natan Sharansky served as a minister in the Israeli government. He was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal in 1986 and the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2006. In June 2009, he was elected as chairman of the Jewish Agency, a position that he held up until 2018. In 2018, he was awarded the prestigious Israel Prize Lifetime Achievement Award. It is my honor to call upon Mr. Natan Sharansky to deliver his address.
Dear friends, dear survivors, I didn't even try, Avner, to prepare my speech because you can't make speeches about Shoah. You can only share the experiences, their experiences and our experiences. Viktor Frankl was one of the leading European psychologists, psychiatrists. And then he spent a few years in Auschwitz and in other concentration camps and wrote a very important book, A Man in the Search of Meaning. And there he tells the story of people who are facing inevitable death and how impossible your life becomes if it loses any meaning. Then you cross the line between human life and animal's life. And on the other hand, he saw how easy you can encourage people by giving them meaning, by reminding them, you have a book which you didn't finish, you have research which maybe you'll finish one day, you have somebody who hopes that you still live, and even if there is no hope that you'll get out, but your experience is very important for the future generations. There are people for whom your experience, your life is very important. And it's interesting how in this situation, so many people decided to believe in it, that their experience is very important. And that's why we have to continue our life with dignity until the last moment. You say, I understood, but I was reading it very well. Because I was, of course, not in such conditions, but I also was in a situation when we, political prisoners in the Soviet Union, did not know whether we'll get out alive. For a year and a half, I was under interrogations and was promised that I'll be sentenced to death. And even then in the camp, you never know how many years you will still have. And I know how in this situation it is so important for the people to try to send any information about their life. Not in order the world will remember about them, but this feeling that if the world will not know the truth about this life, this regime, these conditions, it can happen again and again. And that's why if there is any meaning in our life at this moment, it's meaning in this that it will be then known and used by those who stay. But not only for the people who lived then until the last moment, this memory is important. I can tell from my other experience. I grew in Ukraine, in Stalina, Donetsk today, and my childhood was among the killing fields of Holocaust. Just near 2 miles from my house, there was a mine in which were thrown 75,000 people. The biggest grave, the deepest grave in the world, biggest after Babi Yar. And we grew and knew nothing about it. We were playing football there, not knowing what happened just here. Why? Because that was the policy of the Soviet Union. Soviet Union, which celebrated the victories, which put one monument after another about the victory in the Great War, didn't want to have a word about Shoah, about the Holocaust. Why? Because that was the policy of the Soviet Union, to raise identity of Jews, and they were responsible for raising actual identity of today, but they knew that it's also very important to raise the memory. Because the memory of the Holocaust can give meaning to Jewish life for us today. And they were raising it. And you know, the German army, when they were retreating, they put a lot of caustic soda into these mines in order, as it was written in the document, to turn all these bodies into biomass, so that there will be no faces, there will be no knowledge. Stalin's Soviet Union then tried to make sure that it will happen also without the memory about them. And so after this, that's why one of our first struggles, when we started struggle for the release of Soviet Jewry, one of our first struggles was for the truth about Holocaust in the places where we were. So it's very important for those, for the victims of Holocaust, but it's very important also for modern generation. In order our life will be continuation of this chain of generations. The generation of Holocaust will not simply be those who disappeared without any meaning. They are part of our story. And that's why it's so important. That's why what is the guarantee that they will be part of living history and that our history will continue? The State of Israel guarantees it, Yad Vashem, and all the friends of Yad Vashem. We are grateful to everybody. And one more last point. We face new and new waves of anti-Semitism. 20 years ago, we were speaking a lot about anti-Semitism in Muslim countries. Then we started speaking more and more about anti-Semitism, new anti-Semitism on the left. We had to come with new definitions of what is new anti-Semitism, how demonization, legitimization, double standard against Israel turns into anti-Semitism. And today we speak a lot also about new old right-wing anti-Semitism in Europe. All this comes together. And there are people who say, okay, it's very unpleasant, we have to fight, it's not so awful. They say, if you go through Yad Vashem or any other place, museum, what always surprises me, how thin was this red line, border, between, let's say, life of Jews in 35 in different European countries, how full this life was, how normal, how joyful this life. Who then could think, Jews and non-Jews, that in 3-4 years it will be Holocaust? I have to say, a few days ago there was a cartoon in New York Times. And there was a very good article also in New York Times. That is New York Times anti-Semitic? No. But the fact that somebody in New York Times, without even thinking, passed this cartoon proves that in a few years we are so used to these images, to these anti-Israeli images, we even don't notice that it became anti-Semitic. I can tell you on the campuses, what was impossible 3 years ago is possible today. Every year, this line between political criticism of Israel and anti-Semitism becomes thinner and thinner and thinner, and who knows when it will be crossed. That's another reason why we always have to remind ourselves how full was this life, how real was this life, and how quickly it disappeared.
שלא ייגמר
Jane Wilf and her husband Mark, son of Joe and Elizabeth, are longtime members of the American Society for Yad Vashem and are great supporters of Yad Vashem. They are also recognized supporters and leaders of numerous other charitable organizations. Currently, Jane serves on the board of the Birthright Israel Foundation National Women's Philanthropy Board, the boards of the Jewish Museum, Hillel International, Minneapolis Institute of Art, Newark Academy, Taste of the NFL, and the Wilf Family Foundation. Jane is with us today representing the Wilf family as well as the American Society for Yad Vashem. I would like to call upon Jane to deliver her speech.
I am honored to deliver remarks on behalf of my family, the Wilf family, and all of the American donors of the Shoah Heritage Campus and Collections Center of this moving groundbreaking ceremony. The Wilf family, my in-laws, Joseph and Elizabeth Wilf, together with Harry and Judith, parents of the current American Society for Yad Vashem chairman Lenny Wilf, were among the original founders of American Society for Yad Vashem nearly 40 years ago. The first major project our family participated in was the construction of the intense and beautiful Valley of the Communities in the early 1990s. My husband Mark's father, Joseph Wilf, of blessed memory, a Holocaust survivor, was determined to uphold the legacy of the victims and survivors from the Holocaust, including his sister Bella, who died in the Warsaw Ghetto. He was a close partner of Avner's, chairman of the Yad Vashem Directorate, throughout the process of developing and implementing Yad Vashem's 2001 master plan. When Avner showed my father-in-law the plans, he appreciated immensely their significance. This master plan transformed Yad Vashem into the world-class institution that we know today, serving millions across the globe. We in the Wilf family continue to see Yad Vashem as the epicenter of the Holocaust remembrance for the Jewish people, Israel, and all of humanity. We continue to maintain a generational chain of support for Yad Vashem and its goals throughout the widespread education, collection of all Shoah-related items, research on all its events, and far-reaching Holocaust knowledge and awareness. Our entire family, including the third generation, views supporting Yad Vashem not just as an important act in safeguarding the memory and legacy of our parents and grandparents, but also as a manifestation of our commitment to the unity of the Jewish people, the strengthening of the State of Israel, and to Yad Vashem's mission. When we saw plans for the establishment of the Shoah Heritage Campus, it became clear once again that the family would come together and pioneer the fundraising efforts for this landmark endeavor. The Joseph Wilf Curatorial Center is an essential element, I'm very emotional, of the Shoah Heritage Campus, and we deeply are proud to dedicate it in memory of my father-in-law, Joseph Wilf. In the center, Yad Vashem's Museum Division professionals will be able to continue their important work with the precious art and artifacts in Yad Vashem's collection, to study the stories of their owners and creators, to preserve them and display them for the general public, and to use them as a basis in curating the exhibitions in the years to come. Through the Shoah Heritage Campus and all its components, we are facing a profound challenge of ensuring preservation of Yad Vashem's art, artifacts, and archival collections for prosperity. When the new museum was inaugurated almost 15 years ago, my father-in-law said at the time, "The importance of this project lies not only in establishing the meaningful commemoration, but also in reaching out to the younger generations and affording them the opportunity to learn, to witness, and to remember. This message is more important now than ever before. As the survivor generation continues to grow fewer and frailer with the passing of time, we in the Wilf family have always been passionately devoted to this mission. Today, as anti-Semitism grows in our midst, and once again, we are reminded of the need to remember the Holocaust, not just memory alone, but with a purpose for the future. Memory that propels us to prevent the past from repeating itself, to stand firm against oppression and hatred, knowing all too well how evil can creep in the depths of society and hatred, knowing all too well how evil can creep in the depths of society and contribute to its decay. It is our great responsibility to ensure that decades of commitment to Yad Vashem's effort, carrying on our own family legacy and the legacy of the victims or survivors of the Shoah. Together, friends of Yad Vashem, we can accomplish this critical task. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kai Diekman served as chief editor of Bild magazine for 14 years until 2015. In 2009, he led Bild's much-noted donation to Yad Vashem of the original blueprints for the Auschwitz-Birkenau extermination and concentration camp. Today, Mr. Diekman serves as the chairman of the German Friends of Yad Vashem. He is an important partner in the implementation of our vision for the Shoah Heritage Campus. I would like to call upon Kai to deliver his speech.
This is a very special day for each and every one of us gathered here. In this moment, at this occasion, on this place. It's an honor and it's a privilege, and I think we all feel it. Yad Vashem holds a deep place in our hearts, and its mission is paramount to all of us. It was only yesterday that the atrocities of the Holocaust took place, when the German Nazis and their collaborators murdered 6 million Jewish men, women, and children. I stand before you today, a German, in the state of Israel, on Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, representing the friends of Yad Vashem from all over Europe. This is a humble moment, a moment full of responsibility. Together, we share the same goal. Together, our friends from Borussia Dortmund, Daimler, Deutsche Bahn, Deutsche Bank, and Volkswagen, joined by the state of Austria and other valued partners from Europe, have pledged their support to help ensure that the Holocaust and the memory of the victims are commemorated for eternity. Collectively, we are committed to the undying responsibility and declare never again. This is an occasion that we will forever treasure. Together, we are determined and committed to support the new Shoah Heritage Campus and the Shoah Collections Center at Yad Vashem. This center will serve as the preeminent source of stories of individuals, communities, and the once flourishing Jewish world, which was brutally and systematically exterminated during the Holocaust. This is the place where everything culminates. Yad Vashem, the World Holocaust Remembrance Center, is a place that not only collects all the memories, it also treasures and disseminates them for all of humanity to see and to learn. Here, on the Mount of Remembrance, we have partnered with Yad Vashem to build a new home for all of the pieces of the history of the Holocaust, bringing them together under one roof to serve as everlasting proof to the atrocities of the Shoah. This is the place that not only holds them together, but also restores the voices of the victims. This campus will serve as home to the dreams that were never dreamt, the hopes that never came true, the wishes that will never be fulfilled. On this spot, we will long for yesterday while we strive for a better future. We came today as invited friends of Yad Vashem, of the State of Israel, and of the Jewish people, fortified by our commitment to safeguard these memories. Let there be an invincible willingness to open the gates of memory and declare together our conviction. Let there be not only words of friendship, but deeds. Here, in this moment, occasion, and on this day, we lay the groundwork for our shared future. Thank you very much. Shalom, Shavarim.
וביום שכזה
As part of today's ceremony, I would like to invite our partners to sign our scroll of dedication for the Shoah Heritage Campus.
as we stand upon the site of the future Shoah Heritage Campus and the Shoah Collections Center, which will be built right on where we are sitting right now, our hearts are filled with a sense of mission. Preservation, restoration, and education are the primary pillars on which Yad Vashem stands. Today, you are helping us ensure that this vision will endure for generations to come. We are here to honor the legacy of the victims and the survivors by guaranteeing that their stories will continue to be told. I would like to call upon three of our representatives of our friends of the third generations who will have to carry on this legacy. I would like to call upon Andy Chappelle, Jacques Habif, and John Aburian to put the scroll, to bury the scroll in its place. Please come forward. So let's come, the signatories, and helping us to cover the scroll. Please come here.